President Ilir Meta regards the amendments to the law made for the organization of the Constitutional Court during the February 6th meeting as unconstitutional. RTV Ora speaks ironically about the March 2nd rally, calling these new alliances sworn enemies against justice. Kurti expresses that Kosovo cannot be involved in territory exchanges with Serbia and is a recipe to create more conflict. It's 6 o'clock on Saturday, the 29th of February, 2020. Good evening and thank you for tuning in to the English edition of Ora News. My name is Christopher, bringing you the only update of the local Albanian news translated into English. President Ilir Meta came out at a press conference today to unveil other facts about the Albanian coup. It is regarding the February 6th meeting of the Committee on Laws that adopted the amendments to the law for the organization of the Constitutional Court. Meta calls these changes unconstitutional, according to which a member of the Constitutional Court can also start his work by a written oath if the head of the state does not call the oath ceremony within a specified period of time. The Law Commission turns out to have conveyed intentional false information using the report of two illegal initiatives as a defense mechanism: the law on the Constitutional Court and the law on the status of judges and prosecutors, while only the first law was reviewed because they needed to hurry to convey to Venice that the law for which they invited you was finalized yesterday, and therefore all of you are on vacation these days. This deceptive and shameless maneuver of the criminal sect that has gripped the Albanian parliament and state institutions has been carried out to create the image that the draft law with the amendments to the law on the Constitutional Court have been created by consulting the opinions of the above institutions. Ilir Meta had mentioned. The report of the Committee on Legal Affairs, dated February 6th, when this draft law was voted, states that these changes have support of the Albanian Helsinki Committee and the School of Magistrates and some other institutions, but the presidency from the verifications reveals that none of these institutions have not provided support for these changes. Sorry for the fraudsters, declared the head of the state. The Albanian Helsinki Committee, in a letter to the Assembly, is listed alongside the President, saying that the oath cannot be written but only by the President. The School of Magistrates did not consider expressing their legal opinion upon the situation. The chairman of the committee informed that there was no request to give opinion on the legislative initiative. For this reason, the head of state has called on March 2nd for all Albanians to come together in a manifestation to defend the Constitution and the Constitutional Court. Nothing ends on March 2nd. It is true that there is a March 3rd and there is an April 1st. You see, even though it's not April 1st, we have a lot of issues here regarding the integrity of the Constitutional Court. It is not about protecting certain jobs, but about protecting the state power from power pundits today and democracy and the national interest. March 2nd will enter the history of Albania as a day, the start of the awareness of all Albanians for the sanctification of our Constitution. Prime Minister Edi Rama spoke ironically about the March 2nd rally, which the President has called on citizens for a covenant in defense of the Constitution. For Rama, those who called the manifesto, are sworn enemies of justice reform. They may come out and scream, accuse, and slander others, but they are just spoons banging on empty pots and pans. The noise is very loud, but the pot is still empty. We need to read this danger because people feel this to be very serious, and we end up being the targets from all the noise. What do you think people are waiting for? The Second Convention of Leja on March 2nd? Do you think that people will confuse George Kastriota with the new covenants that are sworn enemies of the justice reform and justice that we are living for? These alliances against the new justice will create the Second Convention of Leja, tirelessly going to Leja, rather staying there and telling them to come to them because they are here to support you. They don't see these things. We have to look farther beyond what we have done because tomorrow we will have a lot more to deal with. Seriously, who are you looking for? Edi Rama says. Rama also attacked the opposition. I do not want to deal with the destruction of our competitors, which are like caricatures of themselves. We have to understand today without realizing what serious consequences this can have if we do not realize that this vacuum is a dangerous enemy. March is crucial for the fate of the negotiations, with the European Commission's report expected first and then the Zagreb summit decision. Socialist MP Memi Kodeli, also chair of the Foreign Commission, in an interview for Ora News, is optimistic that Albania will finally be given the green light. In March, we expect the report to be positive. and then there being a summit in Zagreb from which positive responses are expected, Macron is one of the biggest skeptics of the enlargement process and has a new procedure that has been accepted by all parties. I believe that this skepticism has come to an end not only because of the fact that the procedures have changed, but also because Albania has shown that we are determined, we are doing the right thing with the justice reform, and we will continue on to the end. But if the obstacle with France is overcome, the Netherlands still remains a problem. The Netherlands has previously said it will not be the only black sheep that has affirmatively voiced its support for the opening of negotiations for Albania and Northern Macedonia. But in the meantime, we need to continue talking to them, convincing ourselves that we are working on combating organized crime and trafficking while enforcing strong laws. Albania's return to the Moneyval Grey List will have a direct impact on the country's image and consequently investment. In an interview with RTV Ora News, economics expert Panos Sokol says the problem remains that money laundering is done with the government's permission. Albania has again returned to Moneyval's Grey List after its release in 2015 for the risk it poses for money laundering and terrorist financing. Economics expert Panos Sokol cites the report as disturbing because, according to him, Moneyval points out that money laundering is done by consensus of the state authorities. It's an alarm bell because the rankings in the gray area are all those places where money laundering happens with the permission of the government. Albania's ranking in this report, according to Sokol, is also worrying. It's not just the money laundering department, but a variety of components, including the police department, the tax department, the customs department, all of which have demonstrated a good deal of management of the money laundering situation. The negative impact of the report will appear immediately on foreign investment. This reduces the credibility of the Albanian state in the eyes of investors, lowers the credibility of the Albanian banks, which is also a major problem and affects the choice of Albania as an investment destination. In its published report, Moneyval points out that investigations or legal cases on money laundering and terrorist financing are closed without penalties, while stressing that hopes of improving the situation remain with justice reform. Kosovo's Prime Minister Albin Kurti has once again expressed the view that Kosovo cannot be involved in the exchange of territories. In an interview with Euronews, he said touching territories could promote more conflict than provide peace. Kosovo can never be included in the so-called exchange of territories. All similar projects in the past have failed and will fail in the future, especially now that we are in power. Territorial exchanges are recipes to promote more conflict, not for peace that we need, Kurti said. He also said he expects increased engagement of EU foreign policy representative Josep Borrell in resolving problems in the Western Balkans. For the sake of the European solution, perhaps it should give a new perspective to the problems of the Western Balkans. Anyone who denies this reality or tries to come up with any kind of solution without the recognition of this state and the will of the people here will benefit nothing more than to harm themselves, said the Prime Minister of Kosovo. Albin Kurti took office as Prime Minister in early February. The party he leads, the Vendosje movement, have a coalition with the DLK to co-govern with the country. And that's the news across the country today. Thank you for watching our English edition this evening, and be sure to join us again every Saturday at 6 p.m. for the latest news from Albania. Once again, on behalf of Ora News, thank you and good night.